Hello everyone, and welcome to Matt Talks Games, episode 6. I am here a week later than usual, and then a couple days later than usual, because we took a brief vacation for my wife's birthday. We went out of town. We kind of had I think I call it a stay-awation, because we basically just rented a cabin out in the woods somewhere and just hung out for the most part. We did a couple things, but for the most part we just hung out because there was a lot of things to do. It was a lot of fun, but I'm back. Not a whole lot new going on. A lot of the same stuff. I know show-wise, we've been watching Game of Thrones. We are caught up with Season 7. We have finished all of that, and we are on to the dreaded Season 8, which apparently everyone hated, but, we still love it. We still think it's really cool. I'm excited to see it. I mean, I've been spoiled, like I said before, a whole bunch about the show, but, my wife hasn't, so we're looking forward to Season 8 cautiously, because I know it ranked so bad, and no one talks about it, no one likes it, so we'll see how it goes, but Season 7 has been good so far. We've really enjoyed it. So as far as that, nothing else really new. Kind of just staying the same, trying to enjoy the weekend. It's, Sunday night / Monday morning when I'm recording this. So Memorial Day is in full swing. And we're just kind of taking it easy and enjoying life. So I will take a brief break. And when I come back, I'll talk about what I've been playing. All right, and welcome back to what I've been playing. Been playing some new stuff, not a whole lot new. I checked out the demo for Knockout City, which is the dodgeball game. I call it a demo, but they have been coming up with unique ways, and I credit them for this, of trying to get people into the game, because I know for the first, I think, week or so, they were giving it out free. I think it was the first 10 days. You could play it for free, completely. No level caps, no nothing. I think they've now since changed that to new players can play up to level 25 for free. And it's kind of an interesting way to toe the line, because it's still a $20 game, I think. US dollars, of course, but it's an interesting way to try it, because they don't want to make it free to play. They still want some sort of money in, for you to pay, other than the currency, in-game currency for cosmetics that they have. But it's a cool way for them to do it, of, hey, come on in, play a whole bunch. And if you like it, then give us money and keep playing. And if you don't, then bounce. You've got your time. I don't know how successful this will be. I'm interested to see how this all pans out and how many players they get, because I thought it was fun, but I don't really have any friends to play online with, so I can't foresee spending the $20 to play it. But I can see where their strategy would at least pull some people in and get some people interested, and probably would turn some people around to actually spend some money and get in the game. So very curious to know the numbers of players as it goes along. Big news for me in my personal gaming life, I finally got the platinum for my time at Portia. I think when I went into my game stats, it said something like 123 hours or something in that game, and I believe it. I know I did start it once. I think I restarted it once, maybe even. But then I played it, and I feel like I got to like hour 100 playing completely legit. And then I looked up a trophy guide to try to see what I was missing. And I found out in that trophy guide that you can duplicate items. And then I'm like, man, I'm like 100 hours in. I don't care. So I was using that to my heart's content to get the platinum. And man, it was just a fun game. And even I would have still enjoyed it had I not known about the duplicating thing. I would have still enjoyed my time with it and played even more. But I'm glad I played it. I'm glad I'm done. It's one of those games where there are tons of stories, and you could replay it, and you could try to get married to other people and have different relationships with different people. But, the main story won't change, but you might get different side stories and different dialogues here. But I had my fill of it. I think 130-ish hours is plenty of time to play in that game. So if you like the farming games, Stardew Valley type like that, this is a 3D game, which that's one of the reasons I enjoyed it, because Stardew Valley is, 2D isometric type of view. Terraria is very 2D. This was a 3D game, so that was kind of a interesting twist to it, to the farming type of game. But I really enjoyed it, so I can't say enough good things about it, and I know there is a sequel on the way. I think it's being kickstarted. It's still a ways off. Pandemic, I'm sure, slowed it down, but I'll be checking that one out when it comes out, because this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. A game that you wouldn't expect from me is Resident Evil 7. I was playing that. I played another section. I think when I started it the first time, I played about the first 45 minutes or so, the very intro. I didn't meet anybody. I was just exploring and everything, and then just saved and called it a night. I got to meet some characters in this playthrough and played a little bit more and got to the next section, and we'll see if I play it. I'm only playing it because the Resident Evil 8 hype is so high, because the horror games are definitely not my cup of tea, if you will. But it's kind of been interesting. It's kind of been fun. I'm sure I'll play it some more, but just bits and pieces at a time, because, again, not really a big horror guy. So another platinum that I got recently was Astro's Playroom. This one I probably would have had a while ago, but my daughter was playing it at some point, and I believe my wife accidentally hit new game, and I had to restart all my progress because I lost everything. But it only took a few hours, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. I think a couple nights, and I got the platinum. Really good game, really fun. It was cool. The different ways that they had you play around with the game and learn the dual sense and show off the different things it could do. For the most part, I'm going to be honest, I don't care. I don't, when it's raining and you can feel the pitter patter of rain on the controller, awesome. That does nothing for me. When you're pulling back the bowstring to shoot the bow and arrow, cool. I don't care. I just want to play the game. It's a very interesting technology, and it's very amazing how they did everything and how they engineered that. It just doesn't do anything for me as far as the game goes. But that was a fun game, and I can see why they shifted more people to that team and why they are going to build up that team for more games in the future. So I don't know what they're going to do with Astro next, but I'm sure I'll play it when it comes out. For a game that I tried just downloading random games that I had downloaded or added to my library in the past, I tried Lovely Planet, which is a very kind of abstract game. It's really a how fast can you beat this level and be 100% accurate type of game. It's very minimalist in its design. I played through the first like 15 or 16 or so levels. I know that one of the trophies is glitched, so that kind of puts a hampering on how much more I might play because, if you can't get the platinum because you literally can't get a trophy, that kind of sucks. But it was kind of fun. Not really my type of game either, with the whole, playing the level over and over and trying to do a score chase and trying to do a time chase and making sure that all of your shots are accurate. It was fun for the bit that I played. I probably played about 20 minutes or so of it. It was kind of cute, but I can't foresee myself playing and getting through to the end because some of the levels, I can see where you're going to have a lot of coordination and a lot of things that you're doing and trying to dodge and jump and shoot and time and stuff. And it's cool as a puzzle game type of thing, but it's not really for me. But it was kind of cool, kind of neat. I got it for free, so I didn't mind checking it out. Other than that, a lot of the same games I've been playing before: Adventure Capitalist, Township, Merge Magic. I got back into Toy Blast on my phone for some reason. I think I got first place and second place in some recent events because they have events like every 3 days or something. Those have been fun, but again, just time wasters or whatever. One game that I did try in between sessions of watching Game of Thrones was Ali Ali 2. I hadn't played that in a while, and man, forget that game. That game has passed me by. I got into, I think, the third stage. I was trying out some of those tricks and everything, and man, nah, it's beyond me. It was fun. It was cool to go back, but I probably tried that level like 10 times, and I didn't make it to the end once. So I always loved the Ali Ali games, and they're very fun, but I just think I'm probably just a little bit too old for them at this point to really kind of work it out. But it's good to have them downloaded so I can go back every now and then and check it out. Really, that about wraps it up for all that I've been playing this week. It's, or I should say this episode because it's been about 3 weeks. Nothing really new other than that, but hopefully I'll have a couple new games to report on next time because I got a couple things I am checking out. So for now, that will wrap up what I've been playing. When I come back, we'll talk about the news. And welcome back to the news. There's quite a bit here for me to talk about because it's been a while. I usually don't like talking about reports. These first two stories are from Kotaku, and they are both reports, but I just kind of want to touch on them just because they're interesting. The first one was from Nathan Grayson. He was reporting that Valve is making a Switch-like portable codenamed SteamPal, which would basically be kind of like a Switch, a little bit larger. You could play your Steam library on the go. It would be a portable type of way. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think that would be really cool. I know Steam tried their Steam boxes and that didn't really work. I think the success of a Switch and having it portable and having it something that you can just sit and play at your couch or play on the go, if they make that capability into the machine, would be way more interesting than the Steam box, where it was very clear that Valve just didn't care. They left it in the hands of everyone else and no one else really knew what to do. So it kind of just floundered and petered out at some point. And they tried the Steam controller. That didn't work very well. It just kind of petered out. Some people have it, but I haven't heard anyone mention the Steam controller in a while. So I think making a SteamPal, making a Switch-like device that you can play portable on your lap when you're sitting on the couch playing some of your Steam library. If you're on the go, if they have some sort of Wi-Fi or 4G, LTE, whatever, 5G capabilities, would be a really cool device. I don't know how viable that will be, and it's Valve. This could go nowhere. That's why I don't like talking about these things too much, but I think this would be a very interesting device to kind of bridge the gap between console players and PC players, because if you could play even a good percentage of your Steam library on a handheld in your living room, I think that would get a lot more people in because I know their Steam sales are constant and they really want you in their ecosystem. But it is a hard sell for some people to have a good gaming PC or to sit at an office for 8 hours a day and then sit at a computer to play their game. So interesting report. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but if they did do it, I think that would be something that I could see a lot of people buying into. The other report was from Ari Notice of Kotaku, was saying that Netflix is looking to hire a video game executive. I just think, to me personally, this just says Netflix is seeing some numbers drop off with the addition of Disney Plus, HBO Max, Paramount Plus. They're seeing their numbers dwindle, and I think they're trying to branch out and see what kind of other areas can they move into to try to recoup some of their losses and to try to make some more money. And video games make sense. You know, they had Bandersnatch, which choose your own adventure type game, but a show. I think they had a Bear Grylls one and a couple others that they kind of looked into. And I know they made, I think, a Stranger Things game and a couple other games that they had kind of dipped their toe into a little bit, but they weren't very well received. And if they could get an actual person from the game industry to help them out and to help make good games for some of their properties, you know, that could be a good thing. But again, it's all early days. Who knows how it's going to end up, but worth noting that they are trying to look into other revenue streams and ways to expand their business. So just thought that was interesting. There are two stories I'm going to kind of run together. The first one is from Kotaku. It's from Nathan Grayson saying, tensions high at IGN after management claims Palestine Post takedown was not corporate interference. And then there was an update that I grabbed from Brendan Sinclair at GamesIndustry.biz, where IGN management says pulled Palestine charity post was editorial decision. And to kind of summarize a little bit about what had happened is with the fighting that has happened in Israel and Palestine in the Gaza Strip, IGN, among other sites, had put up something just supporting the Palestinian people, and Save the Children was one of the charities that is brought up a lot. And they had put up a post and changed their banner image to the Palestinian flag and everything. And within, I think, 36 hours, something like that, the post was taken down. All instances of it were scrubbed from the site. And then IGN staffers had followed up. I think there was almost 80 people that had signed a petition asking for more information from their parent company and saying this was clearly overstepping the bounds of, you know, management versus editorial, and they needed answers for that. And now, you know, in the GamesIndustry.biz report, their IGN management was saying that it was completely an editorial decision to take this down. And it really, I'm worried about the future of IGN because this really does feel like something where IGN people were just trying to help. They were trying to help the innocent people who were involved in this conflict and get some sort of charity message out and raise money to just help the, you know, the men, women, and children who weren't fighting, who weren't involved. And it really feels like someone from upper management, from whoever owns IGN, told them to take it down because they had some sort of vested interest, and IGN employees didn't feel that that was right, and they had some back and forth, and now IGN management is saying that, you know, it wasn't their owners that told them to take it down. It was a decision from editorial staff, and that there were some people within the company, IGN specifically, that didn't feel comfortable, and, you know, they couldn't raise their voice. And it is a horrible mess, and I feel really bad for everyone over there because they were just trying to do a good thing, and it has become a battle of back and forth between the owners, the management, and the workers. And I don't know how this is all going to play out. I am keeping a keen eye on this and trying to, you know, read what I can, all sides, to try to figure out what is going on and what is the real story here. But man, there is something that doesn't feel right about it, and I feel bad for all the people at IGN who are now kind of stuck, and they are questioning whether that's the right place for them to work anymore because of what's been going on. So shout out to them. I hope they can figure it all out soon and support the people if you can. If you have the means to donate to the innocents that are involved, by all means do. There's plenty of resources out there. You can check it out. So changing pace, going to something very light. Here are the Xbox Live games with gold, as reported by Riley MacLeod from Kotaku. They are The King's Bird from June 1st to the 30th, Shadows Awakening from June 16th to July 15th. Those are both on the Xbox One, Series X and S. Then the Xbox 360 compatible newer consoles are Neo Geo Battle Coliseum from June 1st to 15th, and Injustice Gods Among Us from June 16th to the 30th. I don't really have a lot to say about these games. I haven't played any of them. I don't know if they're any good, but they're free games, so it never hurts to just log in and collect them because they'll be in your library. Wesley Yinpool from Eurogamer has the PS Plus games for June for me. They are going to be Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, Operation Tango, and Star Wars Squadrons. Very interesting there because Star Wars Squadrons is only, I think, like a couple months old. I think it's like 2 months old. They obviously didn't have the player base to support that. I think it was a budget game. It's $40. You could play it in VR. They weren't going to do any add-ons or DLCs, and I find it interesting that it is coming so fast to PS Plus, but it's definitely one I'll check out. The other two, Virtua Fighter 5, I'm not a fighting game guy, and Operation Tango, I have no idea what that is. So, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I'll check it out. But those are your free games for June. Kind of an update to an old story that I had talked about. Tom Phillips at Eurogamer had said that Ubisoft boss says considerable progress has been made since last year's reports of sexual harassment. This had actually come out because there was a French report in the Telegram that had claimed that the company made only minimal changes. I just find it interesting that there has been a little bit of a back and forth where there are definitely a sect of people within the company that feel with all of the harassment claims that have come forth, they have done nothing other than, maybe a couple meetings, a couple videos. That's about it. But the Ubisoft heads think that they have made much more ground. With such a large company spanning multiple locations across the globe, I have no idea what's going on, and I don't think any of us will really know for a long time, but just worth noting that there are definitely two schools of thought here where some of the employees obviously still feel like not enough has changed, and some of the higher-ups feel like they have done enough. So I don't know where it's going to go, but Ubisoft is always one of my favorite companies, and I know there's been some things too with the free-to-play games. They've been talking about making more of those and everything, so I want to give it about another year until we really figure out what's going on with Ubisoft, because I really feel like they're kind of at that point where there are a lot of moving things and changing of the guard a little bit, if you will, and changing of philosophy maybe even more. So I don't know where it's all going to end up, but it feels like there's a lot more distance to travel for that company to get back to its peak as it was years ago, but hopefully in a better place, of course. Emma Kent from Eurogamer had noted that Valheim was sold 6.8 million copies, and it's expected to shift another 1 million by July. This is absolutely crazy because Valheim, the Steam darling from the summer, is only made by 5 people, and they already sold almost 7 million copies. That is ridiculous for a team of that size. And I just want to give them a shout out real quick. I wanted to definitely take time in the story block to mention them and mention the success, because that is just huge for such a small team to make such a big impact. And it's a game that so many people have been playing and talking about, and I can't hear enough about. I haven't played it myself yet, but at some point I will jump in and check it out, because so many people, it's almost 7 million copies. Like, for a game that came out of nowhere that's made by such a small team is unheard of. It's really cool. So big shout out to them. Props to them for making such a hit, and I hope that they have continued success. Got another 2 back-to-back stories from Wesley Yinpool at Eurogamer. The first one is that a murdered teen footballer is now in FIFA 21, 15 years after his death. This was a really cool story. Keon Prince, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, was playing for Queen's Park Rangers, and he was stabbed trying to break up a fight in school, which obviously horribly tragic. But EA had done a lot of work with FIFA. They had met with the family. They had used photographs. They had met with different people. They had met with his teammates. They had met with coaches. They had met with the people who do like the aging up of, like on Avengers Endgame, for example, when they use aging up and down. They had met with some of those people to try to accurately project what this person would be like 15 years later. He would be, I think, 30, in the game. So they tried to make it, they talked to, like they said, players and coaches to get kind of a feel of how he would play. They took his photographs and kind of aged them up and tried to make him as a 30-year-old and put him into the game as if he were still alive. And I just thought that was a really cool, really heartwarming story, especially because this is just one player. And for them to do all this work for one player really does show a very good side of this developer, and it just shows that they were trying to do something good for a family. And as much crap as EA gets constantly, at least this is one good thing that you could say, hey, they spent a lot of time and money on this that they really didn't need to, and it's very cool. So if you're playing, try to add them to your squad or go FIFA Ultimate Team and check them out, because that was just one of those heartwarming stories that I love. Wesley Yinpool also commented on one of the Skyrim gamers who says, I am alone. He did his best to try to kill every single player in the game. Editor Jay in Skyrim had said, it is finished. He had apparently killed 2,201 people / NPCs, plus over 24,000 more various creatures. Now, obviously, you don't know if he actually killed everyone in the game, if he's actually alone, but for him to go through all that and post his screenshots and everything is still a huge feat. So Skyrim, the game that is, I think, about 10 years old now, is still giving, and people are still playing and finding more interesting ways to play. So cool. Just thought it was a neat little story. I will say I don't know much about this one, but Game Informer's Daniel Tack says Lies of P is the Dark Souls of Pinocchio. And if you've never heard of this game, like I hadn't before this story came up, it really is a Dark Souls type game with Pinocchio, where lying is one of the main tenets of the game. You are to lie to try to make your way through. All I can say is go check out the trailer, read more about it. It sounds absolutely bonkers. I'm surprised a game like this exists, but it sounds also, partially cool. I thought it was kind of neat. I don't know how the final game's going to be, but what an interesting premise and what an interesting game to be made. Tom Ivan from Video Games Chronicle says that Gearbox, the maker of Borderlands 3, claims that it's been blocked from adding crossplay on PlayStation. Their boss, Randy Pitchford, says it's ready to go for all platforms, but apparently they've been asked, or the publisher has asked them to remove crossplay from PS4 and PS5. Some people out there do wonder if this has anything to do with the recent Apple versus Epic lawsuit, where Sony has some sort of kickback in Fortnite, where if you play the game a lot on other consoles and spend money on other consoles, but then use all those items back in PlayStation, they want a kickback. And it is speculated that maybe there's some sort of deal like that in place that Gearbox or 2K didn't agree to, and that's why you're not allowed to do crossplay on PlayStation. No idea if that's true. It's complete speculation, but I do find it interesting that it's another instance of PlayStation just blocking something that more and more gamers are just asking for and think should be a standard. Crossplay should be standard. It shouldn't matter where you go, but PlayStation still wants to harvest their ecosystem and wants to have their place be the premium place to play, and they're going to continue blocking these things, I'm sure, for days to come. So I don't know if we'll ever see it in the future, but definitely won't see it now, so kind of a bummer, but we'll see what happens. Jeff Grubb from VentureBeat has April's NPDs. Just going to kind of touch on these a little bit. Apparently, the big headline is that it's a slight decline from last year, about 2% decline when compared to a year ago, April 2021 to date. But year-to-date, consumer spending reached $19.6 billion, which is 21% higher than the first 4 months of 2020, so there is still good news to be gleaned. From there, just going to kind of touch on some of the big hitters of the month. MLB The Show 21 came in at number 1. It was new last month. Pokemon Snap, again, another new edition, was debuted at number 3. Nier Replicant debuted at number 5. Returnal debuted at number 8, and that's a PlayStation 5 exclusive, so I thought that was kind of an interesting number because it's only on the PlayStation 5. And then some other big movers were that Mortal Kombat 11 went up from number 14 to number 6. It Takes Two went from number 22 to number 9, so that made a huge jump. There must have been a sale or something on there. Otherwise, a lot of the same games from last month were in there for this month. I thought that was kind of just interesting, to see some of those numbers. And I didn't expect Nier Replicant to debut at number 5, that's for sure. And Returnal debuting at number 8, especially considering what kind of game it is, considering it's only on one platform and everything. Number 8 seemed high to me too, so I'm glad that it is number 8. And again, Pokemon Snap debuting at number 3. Nintendo doesn't announce digital sales, so likely that was probably number 1. We just don't know. And then just interesting to note that the top 10 best-selling games of the year so far, MLB The Show, it just made 1 month, and it's now multi-platform, and it jumped all the way to number 3 already, which was kind of crazy, I thought. Call of Duty and Super Mario 3D World were number 1 and 2, and they're still there. But for MLB The Show to jump to number 3, I thought that was a big deal. And I just thought also of note, the April MPD top 10 best-selling Xbox platform games in the US, number 2 was MLB The Show 21. I just thought that was interesting because number 1, digital sales were not included. Number 2, it's published by PlayStation. And number 3, it is on Game Pass. So for it to come out in April on Xbox and be number 2 in the MPDs for Xbox means there are some people out there who don't have Game Pass that were very hungry for a baseball game. Just an interesting nugget of information. That's about it for the MPDs. Slightly related to a story earlier, I should have placed this up there. Marie D'Alessandre from GamesIndustry.biz had said that Ubisoft's Owlet studio manager stepped down Charlie Guillemot and Remy Pellerin have left the studio to pursue new opportunities. This was just an interesting side note. I think maybe a little bit of the culture change that's going on at Ubisoft, because Charlie Guillemot is the son of Yves Guillemot, who is the CEO of Ubisoft, and he was working at Owlin Studio as a director. In some of the articles that I read about Ubisoft, there were some employees that were complaining that he was afforded the opportunity, that he was straight out of college. He didn't have the experience. And I know there was a controversy before too of, there was a game that they were working on and it was the director of the game, and there was they were basically making the Black Lives Matter movement out to be like a terrorist organization in the game with the imagery that you're using and everything, and that didn't sit well with too many people. So interesting that he is stepping down. Him and the other person there are stepping down. I don't know the behind the scenes of it, but it definitely does seem like this is a direct result of the culture shift of the studio and them needing to make changes to appease, more people within the studio to make sure that things run more smoothly from now on. That is the last news story that I had to actually talk about. So we're going to head over to the bonus round. Of course, the bonus round is a bunch of stories that I have collected that I don't have much to say about them, but I thought they were newsworthy to just at least mention. Top of the list there was that Target and Walmart were stopping selling Pokemon cards and apparently some other cards because there was a fight about some of them and a gun was drawn in a parking lot, and that didn't sit well with them. So they just said, hey, no more cards in store. You got to buy them online. The Normandy was added to No Man's Sky. I thought that was kind of cool because Mass Effect, the remaster, had just come out. Legendary Edition, I guess is what it's called. And you could get a ship in No Man's Sky, not one that you could fly, but it could be part of your crew. So it was kind of a cool little addition, little crossover there. So that was neat. Returnal, which has only been out for, 2 weeks now, I think, as of recording this. Returnal has already been beaten in under 5 minutes. Y'all are crazy. This is just nuts. How do you beat the game in under 5 minutes? That's just crazy. I'm sure it's going to take me days to beat it, and someone's already figured out how to beat it in 5 minutes. That's just crazy. Just nuts. BlizzCon announced that they are not going to do a 2021 event. I think that's probably for the best. They couldn't do anything in public, with the pandemic and with all the kind of negative buzz that's been going around Blizzard lately. I think it's better for them to take a year off. So see what they have to announce in 2022. Ancestors, game that I had championed before, where you play as a clan of primates trying to make your way from long, long ago until still a long time ago. That hit 1 million units sold. And I just thought that was a cool thing to note because, man, I love that game. I got the platinum. I spent 35 hours in it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And cool to see that it reached 1 million sold because a game like that would not normally reach 1 million sold. So, good on them. Just thought I'd mention worth noting that. EA Play Live will be July 22nd. It will not be at E3. I know E3, I think, is around, June 12th-ish. 12th to the 15th, I think, is the official dates for E3. Interesting to me, just that EA is just saying, nope, see ya, and going a complete month later. So, they have every right to do that, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to note that they won't even be in the vicinity. I talked about it early, but I just thought, again, just to mention it was cool that Knockout City was giving 10 free days to play at launch. I thought that was a cool thing. I think other games could benefit from this. I thought that was a cool thing to see. So just worth noting, if you didn't play it, I think it's over now, but I think they changed it so you could still play to level 25 if you haven't. But, I'd be interested to see if more people, that have a game sort of like this, a multiplayer-based game, kind of adopt this model. Time will tell. Again, just a report, but apparently the Switch Pro has leaked. A bunch of people have been talking about this. I'm just waiting for Nintendo to tell me. I don't really care because you hear so many things. This has been a rumor for years now, but apparently it's picking up steam. So, we'll see. And just two things I want to mention. Horizon Forbidden West had apparently a 22-minute state of play. Far Cry 6 got revealed. I didn't see either of those. First off, I was busy. Second of all, I don't care. Horizon Forbidden West is going to be a day one purchase. I'm going to want to play it immediately if I can, if I'm able. Same thing with Far Cry. It's going to be out in October. Apparently it has a release date, I think of October 16th, but I could be wrong. I know it's October. I play every Far Cry. I don't care. I don't need to see any more. I don't care about the story. I just want to go and play it. So, there are certain things that come along like that I'm just going to miss because I don't care. I'm going to play them. So just wanted to touch on them because I know a lot of people have talked about them, but I don't care. I'm not going to watch them. I'm going to play them when they come out. That should do it for the bonus round. That's about all the news that I had wrapped up in long form and short form. So when I come back, we are going to hit up my topic. Welcome back to segment 3. What's on my mind? What's on my mind this week is video game announcements. E3 is rapidly approaching, and because of the craziness of last year, we're also going to have Summer Games Fest. We're going to have whatever IGN does. We're going to have the Guerrilla Games Collective. We're going to have so many things. And with all those things, we're going to see a lot of announcements, I'm sure. And I just kind of want to touch on this a little bit because I really think that game announcements, they need to figure out a better way to do it. And what I mean by this is I pulled out a couple games that I'd like to highlight in particular just to talk about. BioShock Infinite is the first one that pops to mind. I loved BioShock, and BioShock 2 I still loved, but not as much because it wasn't Ken, it was a different team. When I saw that first reveal trailer for BioShock Infinite, I was blown away, and I loved it, and I just thought it was great. I couldn't wait to play it. But it was years from then when I got to play it. I actually got a cat. I named my cat Elizabeth because of that game. And it wasn't even out yet. I loved it so much, and I had so much blind faith, if you will. And ultimately, I thought BioShock Infinite was a great game. But the game I got was not what I saw, what was in that release trailer. There was so much that was cut. There was so much that was changed. And, yes, of course, you can't glean a whole lot of information from a release trailer, but there were so many things that you could see already were different. And a game like that, once it's announced, especially one that's so close to me, I love it. I want to get in there. I was checking out everything. I was all over the place. I was reading every little bit of information I could. And that game changed so much over time. And I really feel like it probably was to its detriment. I feel like so many more people would be talking about BioShock Infinite right now if maybe a year or two after it was announced was when it was really announced, because they would have had a better idea of the game. I think a lot of game companies kind of have a problem of doing this, of announcing their game too early to get buzz going for it, but they don't have everything locked down. Another obvious example of that is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, man, what was it, 2017 or something? 2014 maybe even, when I saw the first trailer. I don't remember when it was. It was a long time ago, but I remember seeing that first reveal and thinking, man, this looks crazy. And it's from the people who make The Witcher. I'm in. And then you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and people are hyping it up, and you're seeing all these sorts of different things. And the game comes out and is ultimately a humongous disappointment, to the fact where I think that a lot of things that are going on in the game industry right now are negatively impacted by Cyberpunk. I think they bungled that launch so hard that other companies are really gun shy and are really considering what they're doing even harder. I think that's why when the Horizon Forbidden West came out, they didn't put a date on it, because they didn't want to. They didn't want to even come close to touching what Cyberpunk did, because that really hurt them so bad. They overpromised to an extreme that we haven't seen before, and then they under-delivered so hard, where still we're like, 120 days out from release, and it's still not on the PlayStation Store. You can't buy it on the PlayStation. It's just crazy. And I think a lot of these games have this problem where they are announcing way too early. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what the solution is there, because a lot of these companies are publicly shared. They have shareholders that they have to appease. They have investors that they have to appease. They have to have some sort of positive buzz. But a lot of times in these instances where we see these games being announced so early, it just hurts them in the long run, because there's no way that you can live up to the hype. Fallout 76, even Fallout 4, both of those games, Fallout 76, yes, it had a much shorter time span, but I think Fallout 4 really fell into this a little bit too, where yes, it was announced and released close to it, but it had such a pedigree to live up to, because Fallout 3, I know for me, Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. I did everything you could in that game. And for Fallout 4, it was announced, and I think there was such a hype and a buzz, and it almost on the other side of it, I bought it and I was all in day one, and I got a couple, 20 hours in, I'm like, this isn't really what I was looking for. And I think that can be another side of the conversation of, there are certain games where they're announced and they're flagship titles. They're announced and they come out quick, but that doesn't really give you a whole lot of time to dive in and to digest what it is. Fallout 76, of course, when they announced that one, they even announced and said, hey, this is going to be a hot mess. And it came out and it was a hot mess. And no one was surprised by that. But it almost makes me wonder, should they have even announced that? Should they have maybe given that another year to gestate and kind of change and work out some different bugs and things? Because, I've heard that today is a pretty good game, but It took a long time to get to that point. And more games, it kind of seems like that. It's like it takes too long to get to the point of fun. And it's kind of similar to Returnal, where I've heard about that, where one of the main problems with Returnal is there is no save functionality. They even say just suspend your console, but if you have auto updates on and your console updates, it wipes your progress. Some people have said, hey, they've got to figure this out. They've got to add some sort of save functionality. So maybe in 6 months, cool. It'll be a great game at that point. But why should we have to wait 6 months for that? Why isn't that a feature now? Why did that not occur to anyone earlier? It kind of is that push and pull of this is another one that they announced and it released relatively shortly thereafter. And I know not a lot of people, from my understanding, had any idea what this game was. It wasn't until people really got their hands on it that they understood what the game was and how it played. And, it wasn't really until later that people understood, like, hey, like this isn't exactly great for a normal person. Because I know, like, for me, I haven't picked it up yet because I've heard that runs can last 2 to 3 hours. I mean, obviously they can last anywhere, but a good run can be 2 to 3 hours. And it's like, I don't always have 2 to 3 hours to sit there and just play a game. If it's, I put it in rest mode and it's a chance that it just wipes my progress, that's going to really bum me out. So I've stayed away from that one, even though I really, really want to play it. I want to buy it. I want to get involved, but it is one of those things where I have to wait. And maybe this is one too where, games like this, games like Fallout 76, Returnal, maybe they should be announced a little earlier. Maybe there should be more hands-on time with them so that people can give some feedback and kind of help shape development. I know with the pandemic, with not being able to see face-to-face, with people being scattered everywhere, it's kind of a difficult situation where people can't play the games, people can't go see them, feedback can't be given, but it's just one of those things where I feel like no matter what, video game announcements, there's too many and it's too far out, and that really is the harm. There are select cases like Returnal and Fallout 76 where maybe announcing them earlier, having more of a beta test or early access period, something like that might have helped. But I was looking at Video Game 24/7 had some release dates, and they had release dates in 2021. There are 96 games that have release dates in 2021 yet to come. And in 2022, there are 129 games that they say have release dates yet to come. And I mean, 129, that's over 10 a month. Not much, but it's still over 10 a month. Obviously, they're not all going to release. It's not going to be 10 a month. But that's almost like 250 games that are out there that have been announced that people are waiting for. And not all of them are going to be mainstream, high. Everyone wants to look at them. Everyone's following them. But of those 200 plus games, there are definitely people for every single one of them that is the game they're looking forward to the most. And for 129 of them to be in 2022, which is over 6 months away, and this nebulous date of 2022 could be January, could be December, could get pushed. No idea. It's just tough to really get into the hype cycle of game announcements and stuff like that. It's cool to see what's coming, but so many times I just, hey, that looks great, file it away. Because that's 200 and some odd games that who knows when they're actually going to be released. Who knows what state they're going to be in. And we've seen games like Cyberpunk. We've seen games like BioShock Infinite. We've seen all sorts of different games where the final game isn't what you see. The story changes, the gameplay changes, all sorts of things change. And it becomes tough to really get excited and follow these games because I just feel like too many of them are announced too soon. I think that's the main problem that I'm really getting around to. And I don't know how to solve that because this industry is so based on investors and shareholders. But I'd love to hear any sort of solution because some of these games just need to be worked on more. I'd rather see games more in a finished state, or at least this is what the game is. And it's coming out in 6 months or it's coming out in a year, rather than this is what the game is. And then next year it's changed. And the following year it's changed again. And then it's pushed back. Like Skull and Bones, that poor game, man, it's been pushed so many times. It's been talked about so many times. And I feel so bad for it because invariably I just feel like whenever it's going to come out, whatever the game is, it's going to flop. And it got announced way too early because everyone loved Assassin's Creed 4 and that combat. And then Sea of Thieves came out and kind of flipped everything in its head, and people didn't like it at first, and then it grew into a game that everyone loved. And I feel like Ubisoft has been trying to play catch up a little bit too much and change the development and everything. And when it comes out, is anyone going to care? That's the tough part because it got announced so long ago, and it's such a different game now, and it's changed so much that who even knows what I'm going to be excited for? It could be a totally different game. So that's kind of my rant about video game announcements. I just feel like for the most part, the industry would benefit more if there was more announcements where the game is more locked down and it gets announced, 6 months to a year from being completed, rather than some of these games that get announced and it's 3, 4 years before you even know. And it is good to have those whales on the horizon and those little teases and everything, but I think it just causes more problems than anything because, like we're seeing again, hey, we're going to see Elden Ring. Where we're going to see Elden Ring? Where's Elden Ring going to show up? And if it doesn't, everyone gets disappointed. And if it does, they either aren't going to like what they see or it's going to be too far away or whatever. It just causes too many problems. And I wish that this was an industry that could announce things later. I don't think it will. I don't think that will be a solution, but I would like to see it push more to that in the future. That should wrap it up for this episode. That does it for episode 6. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, I am at MTGRPGme on Twitter. I still use the RPGme Show on Instagram. There's a Facebook group for Matt Talks Games. There's a YouTube video that I do, which is just this podcast, but in video form. You can search for Matt Talks Games. It's there. Of course, you can go to the website, rpgme.net/mtg. Every episode is there. You can listen to it, stream it, or download it from there. You can also go to rpgme.net. There's a contact section on the website where if you'd like to ask a question, make a comment, or whatever, you can do it there. And you can do it anonymously. You don't have to put your name or email address if you don't want to, but you can write in there. Of course, I'm on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you want to listen there. But that about does it for episode 6. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully it's a much better one than episode 5. I feel pretty good about that anyway, because episode 5 was pretty awful. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that, and I should see you again in probably another 2 weeks for episode 7. So enjoy your Memorial Day, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.